Welcome back to Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice. I'm Julie Grant, and it's great to have you along on this Thursday afternoon. We are on a break in the case in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So right now I want to turn our attention to some other big cases making news around the country. Members of a 5-judge panel in the state of New York's Intermediate Appellate Court apparently blasted Manhattan prosecutors. This was on Wednesday afternoon, saying that they included excessive prejudicial testimony in Harvey Weinstein's rape case. Now, that happened last January of 2021. They also apparently condemned the trial judge, for admitting multiple witnesses and for another ruling that allowed evidence about Weinstein's past behavior. Sounds to me like 404B witnesses or prior bad act witnesses they had an issue with. But based on these findings, several judges on that panel appeared very open to be considering reversing Weinstein's convictions and ordering a new trial. Now, a final decision from the Intermediate Appeals Court is not expected to happen until January. So nothing is final. This is just hinting at that. Now, remember, he's got another case pending in Los Angeles County as well. Want to also turn our attention to another big high-profile case happening in New York City, where the defense has started calling its witnesses. That is the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. According to court documents, there are 35 names on the defense team's witness list, but it's unclear if Ghislaine Maxwell's name is one of them. Now, over the course of the past 2 weeks, we saw the federal government presenting testimony that Maxwell was involved in a sex abuse scheme to traffic minors with her former boyfriend and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The defense instead is arguing that Maxwell is being made a scapegoat for Epstein, who is dead, and much of the evidence will likely try to diminish her accuser's testimony. There are 4 of them. We expect much of the testimony to say that these accusers were only seeking a payout. And I understand the first defense witness was called just a short time ago. Her name is Simberly Espinoza. She told the jury she worked as Ghislaine Maxwell's assistant at Epstein's New York City office, which was located on Madison Avenue, and she was employed there from 1996 to 2002. Apparently, Maxwell was managing lots of different properties, very high-end properties that Epstein owned at the time. And this former office worker said that she had high respect for Ghislaine Maxwell, that she looked up to her very much. So nothing but praise, it seems, coming from this individual who knew her in a work-related capacity. So that is witness number 1 called for the defense. Let me bring in our analyst to talk a little bit about this. Still with me, civil rights attorney Eric Fudali and criminal defense attorney Daryl Cohen. Eric, I want to start with you on this one because our viewers, I'm sure, will be very pleased to know that you went into the courtroom to watch some of this testimony. Our cameras aren't permitted in because it's a federal case. Cameras aren't allowed in federal court. But you went in, you observed some things. What were your impressions, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually represented 8 victims of Jeffrey Epstein, one of which actually has allegations against Ms. Maxwell, but is not a witness in this case. So I did have a keen interest in this, and I've been in the courthouse quite a few times throughout this trial. I thought it was a weird witness. It's a strange choice to start with for the defense, because there wasn't really any information that she provided other than that she liked Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, I guess perhaps they're relying on the absence of her seeing anything suspicious, but that's really certainly not evidence that nothing happened. So I thought it was an odd choice, kind of ended with a thud. There was really nothing there, nothing compelling, no smoking gun, no real emphasis or really anything interesting about this witness other than that she liked Ghislaine Maxwell. So I thought it was an odd choice to start with. We'll certainly see where the defense goes. I thought the prosecution has done a really great job in what is very difficult circumstances in proving. And I think the defense has sort of been a little bit all over the place. At some points, they've even defended Epstein. During the opening argument, they referred to Jeffrey Epstein as a 21st century James Bond, which I thought was strange. So they're not all it's not a full defense of just Ghislaine is a scapegoat. They're also sort of defending Epstein, which I thought was strange. So I'm really interested to see where defense goes with this.
Oh, that seems like a very bad argument to make. Daryl Cohen, let me have you pick it up from there, if you would, please.
Well, I am certainly not going to defend and would never defend Epstein, but I understand why they used this first witness. If it comes in to be likability, if Ghislaine is liked by the people who work for her, they're going to try, in my view, of moving that from I like Ghislaine over to the jury so the jury will like her, because so much of this is victims are in just terrible shape. The victims were just destroyed. But if you can show that she was a good person, and hopefully the jury will ignore some of the direct evidence. And so in opening statements, that's one thing, but that anticipates what the evidence is going to be. And I am not at all surprised. I think it's actually a good move to start off with something. There's not going to be a smoking gun from the defense, because the only smoking gun could be, yes, she did. Yes, she helped. Yes, she procured. So from the defense, you need to be soft. You need to say she was actually an innocent victim of her friend, Jeffrey Epstein.
Eric, tell me, when you were in that courtroom, were you able to get a good look at Ghislaine at any point? And if so, how did she appear to you?
The answer is no, unfortunately. So they're having anyone who's not directly involved in the actual trial in these spillover rooms where we're allowed to watch on this big screen with audio. And Ghislaine Maxwell is very small on the camera. She's been wearing a mask. I've actually noted how difficult it is to get any idea of her reactions, her responses. Everyone in the courtroom is wearing a mask. She's kind of sort of has her hair over her, the sides of her face, wearing big turtlenecks. It's actually extreme. I don't know if it's intentional, but is it extremely difficult to have any idea of what Ghislaine's facial expressions or reactions are to anything.
Well, and that's an important point you just shared with us too, Eric, because if you think about it, the jury's looking at her in there. So if she's got the mask and she's covered up with a lot of clothing, and they may be wanting to kind of get a read on her. I know I'd be looking at the jury after that testimony comes in, and or if I was in the jury box, I'd be looking at the defendant after you hear from the witness. In my head, it was right, but you know what I'm saying. You want to observe, right? You want to observe body language, facial expressions, anything that's reactive that could give you an indication of how somebody may be feeling. Eric, we have to say goodbye to you. Thank you so much for lending us all that great insight and analysis today. We will look forward to seeing you again soon. Daryl's going to stay with us. Want you to do the same. It's almost the top of the hour. The jury's going to be back in Kim Potter's case. This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice.